Good everybody, this is Justin from the RC and Coffee YouTube channel and Facebook page. As always, please consider supporting us by subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification button, and signing up to the Facebook page. Once again, I have my little helper there. She wanted to sleep and snore everywhere, so now again she has to partake in the explanation of this fantastic rig that is right here, and I'm sure she'll be able to convey her 2 cents with regards to the quality of this particular chassis. So, again, we are now taking a look at the Cross RC Demon, rather. There are two iterations of this particular chassis. You have the SG4 version. This is an SG4C with all the metal bits. And you have the SU4, which is the SUV version. So which, by the way, probably lends itself better to a scale build simply because it does not have the triangular shocks architecture that is sitting right here. That may not be suitable for every single build. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so why are we looking at this guy right now? No, it is not a, the chassis itself is not a kit. You have to buy the entire rig for this. However, I have heard here and there that a new Demon is scheduled, and therefore these guys currently retail for $299 at Cross RC US. Fantastic deal. On top of that, you can get them at a fairly decent price on the resale market, and this is the reason why you should take a look at these guys for your very own scale build. So, as you know, or you may not know, so I will not assume, this is a hard body kit. Therefore, the architecture was designed for that. And I left the little the fake engine there to show you exactly how good this kit is and how well it lends itself to a customized construction. First of all, that tiny thing here, that's the transmission. That's the downside or the Achilles heel of this particular kit, but at the same time, it's also the advantage. By the way, there is a new transmission that is available on Cross RC US or at stcrc.ca if you're in Canada. It's a really, really small transmission. It's more of a planetary gear, reduction gear than anything else, by the way. And the motor sits right at the front of it, right here. Basically, the motor is at the same level or barely above the shock towers, which is fantastic. Everything is very, very low. And I would say that the motor right now currently sits half an inch above the chassis, which is super low. So you have your little motor there that is sitting super low, about 5 millimeters from the highest point here, and right here you have about 7 inches of of flat area where your T case is sitting. Your T case is slightly is just above your chassis railing. However, the sliders there are sitting about 2 millimeters above the railing, which means that if you were to keep those sliders and slap a hard body on top, a hard body of your conception, you could actually use the mounting holes and probably shave off the sliders if you don't like them, or keep them if you want to, but use the mounting holes for your own construction. And it's the same thing for the rear. I kept this to show you. The rear is completely flat. The suspensions are not, there's no shock tower. As a matter of fact, the suspensions are directly connected to a little plastic, sorry, is it plastic or metal? It is a plastic bit, one of the very few plastic bits on this chassis there, but at the same level as the railing. This is a really, really key point when it comes to scale building. You don't want those guys to protrude. Now, the drawback for this architecture is that your servo is sitting on the axle, which is not the most scale format, but again, I do think that it's totally worth having to deal with that, especially if you're going to be doing a super scale looking rig. You probably are not going to be driving it very, very hard, and therefore the fact that the servo horn is sticking like a sore thumb at the front of the rig probably isn't an issue for you. But the fact that the shocks are standing straight like that, and instead of being slanted like you would have seen on the BRX01, or angled rather, means that it's definitely more of an off-road application. Otherwise, you'd have to come up with your own cantilever shocks. I've never seen that done for one of these, but it's a very, very good chassis if you want to do your very own hard body Jeep version. I've seen it done. It works beautifully well. It almost looks like it was designed for this. The axles are very, very nice. They are, they're relatively thin. They're not super wide, and they're scale looking. Speaking of which, let's dive into, the metrics or the characteristics that we were looking at for this guy there, for all the other chassis, and see how it compares. All right, so in terms of wheelbase, sorry, it's 11.8, so definitely on the shorter side. The transmission is located at the front, which is fantastic. There's only one. There's only one speed. You can't. There's no two speeds. There's only one. The width of the axle is 7 inches, which is definitely on the narrow side. Definitely off-road. There's a huge difference between this and the BRX-01. By the way, there's over an inch difference, but overall, it's still very, very scale. The suspensions appear to be 70 millimeters. The chassis stiffness is pretty darn good. I'd rate that at 3.5 out of 5. It's a relatively thin chassis, but at the same time, it's got braces all at the right places, and all the braces are metal, with the exception of one. And also it's a short chassis, so I'm not worried about this. The aftermarket support, however, that's a 2 out of 5, simply because Cross RC tends to, they have their own game. They have their own rules. They don't play with the other players. They play well. They play a great game, but they're slightly isolated on the market, and I would love to see at some point them being able to be a little more mainstream. We're starting to see that with the AT4, but for now it's it's Cross RC, Cross RC, Cross RC. Now the overall perceived quality is Cross RC, 4.5 out of 5. I mean, this thing is fantastic. Even what's really notable with Cross RC is actually the quality of the plastic. It's slightly rubberized, thicker. It's really, really high quality stuff. The scale look of the architecture, 1 out of 5. That's a 3.5. However, this guy, transmission is not very scale looking, unfortunately. However, everything's positioned where it should be, so fairly decent. Scale look of the axle, that's a 4 out of 5. The axles are relatively thin, relatively on the narrower side. I'm not going to call them narrow, but narrower side. So that's very good. The chassis customizability, I'd say 4. 4 because it's a chassis that is super easy to use. It's not super easy to, it's easy to adjust. Number one, the rails are pretty thin. You can, drive a screw into them, no problem. There's not, you have to MacGyver your own thing, but it's very easy to do so, and there's not a whole lot of work because it's already done for you. That thing was designed from the ground up to accommodate for a hard body, so that's fantastic. Overall, this guy, and the shock adjustability, 3.5, there's actually not a whole lot that you can do for this. However, you could definitely put shock towers if you wanted to, but again, it's not Cross RC stuff. You'd have to look elsewhere and try to see what works on this thing. Overall, pretty good score, 3.56 out of 5 with the criteria that we currently have. Again, those criteria can be adjusted and changed based on anything that I may have missed. I really recommend, if you guys don't know Cross RC, I recommend taking a look. Fantastic company. They play in their own sandbox. They have their own vision. The quality is there. The manuals are fantastic. Something that's really different, actually, when you take up a Cross RC box, it's always smaller than say a TRX4 box or something. Everything is done well, and the quality, even the size of the box, the texture of the box, the texture of the manual, the texture of the accessories, it's great. And everything that you see there came with the kit itself. So I highly recommend that. So there you go. This was the SG4, the SG4C to be precise, from Cross RC. Yes, I know you like this rig. I very much recommend this guy for a skill build. Most specifically, if you're going to go look at a Jeep. I've seen it done. It's great, and I don't even think you need to cut through the dashboard or the center console to make that fit. So there you go. Moving on to the next chassis.